Well, gamers.
Yeah. It's kept you waiting, huh?
Like we say every episode, it's every FNFF time, baby.
Baby!
That's our catchphrase that you all know and love. Everyone goes wild for it. And
that's right.
We're here to say it yet again because we are back yet again.
Yet again.
The calms keep coming.
Yeah, they don't stop coming.
And neither do I.
Went to the Farplane and I didn't stop coming.
Yeah, so we're back again with Chapter 4 of Final Fantasy X-2. So as you know, it has been a little bit since our last recording, and I think the best explanation I can give for the fact that it's been so many weeks for the last recording is you should just watch a 100% playthrough of Chapter 4 in Final Fantasy X-2, and you will understand. You will see it and go, I get it. I see why they did not record for weeks.
I'm glad you bring that up, Curtis, because I did something very similar as I was going through and just trying to gauge how much homework was going to have to be done for this like short segment of the game in terms of like what to talk about. So I thought, what better place to find out how long something takes in a game than to go to speedrun.com and go to the leaderboard for 100% of this game and see what the world record time of this particular part of the game.
Is it Brain Bug? Does Brain Bug have one?
No, this was a record that happened like 9 months ago. I can pull that up in a sec. I didn't make a note of it. I probably should, but
I was just thinking, I was like, I bet I know who did it, but I don't know.
But yeah, it is the split for just this segment of game in the world record speedrun category is 26 minutes of going through. Doesn't sound like the longest time. It is a 12-hour speedrun for 100% of the game, and I'm talking about just the first part of what we're trying to talk about today, which is
just the first part. Okay,
just the part getting up to where you have like a break and go to start figuring out something for the concert. So just that was 26 minutes. I think the next part was like 10 or something, but it's like
I certainly didn't get through it in 26 minutes. Let's put it that way, though.
Well, the guide that we're following, the guide that has been the lifeblood of the podcast this season, the Steam guide, 100% achievements, it says to like watch until the end of the dialogue. That is not what the speedrun does. They just skip right past it. But of course, we have to talk about what they're saying in the dialogue, so we have to watch all of it. So I think you jokingly said like 4 hours last time, Curtis, and I think that was actually extremely accurate. I was kind of getting through it. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't seem like it's taking that long and stuff, and then I was like, oh my god, I kept scrolling and I was like, what have we done?
No. It's a little rough. So
but I think before we get into that, there was also last time we left off right at the end of chapter 3. I notably did not grab one of the Crimson Spheres, the first one that's there. I also didn't do the part where you hit the confirm button, and I forget specifically how it played out, but long and short of it is, I didn't whistle. I had to go, I didn't whistle. I had to go back and do all of that shit again, and in the guide that I'm following, it's like, just go back through Bavel the way you did like the last time, and I was like, that was like months ago at this point. I don't remember what I did. I don't know how to get these elevators to work correctly. So already starting off on the wrong foot, but happy to report I got Crimson Sphere number 1. I whistled. I did all of that stuff that I said I would do last time, and I am still definitely not on pace to get 100%, but
I was about to say, to be fair, like, Carl's a gentleman and would never whistle at a lady.
That's true. That's true. I do the opposite of that. I run and hide if I see a woman. But yeah, did we go over the conversation that happens on the Celsius when Yuna gets back? I think we just stopped right there, right?
I believe so.
So Yuna just got back from the Farplane, and boy, are her arms tired. I think Buddy was on the intercom and was like, "Oh, Yuna, like, you're back. We found you." So they pick her back up, and then
because she was like basically just disappeared, fell into a hole, as far as they know.
Yeah. Which I think was either implied to be the Farplane where she was, or just in this episode she straight up says, like, hey, I was at the Farplane. It's like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
right.
Yeah, nice.
Although, I do like so for the intro scene when she's finally back on the airship.
This is not unlike Space Jam I'm thinking about.
she went down the golf hole, right? Into the Looney Tunes world.
In order to beat the next boss, we have to drink just plain water, but it says Yuna's special stuff or whatever, and it gives us the confidence to take it down.
That's right. Something I didn't notice when I was playing this the first time is that so she gets back onto the ship, right? And like brother and buddy and everybody's kind of like, oh my gosh, thought we'd lost you. Like, glad you're all right. And Shinra says like, hey, we dropped a comm sphere down one of the holes, like looking for you and trying to find you with one. And I was like, and later on at the very end of this section, they actually bring that up again. And I was like, ooh, that's good. That's good. Good foreshadowing.
Good foreshadowing. There is a lot of that. I think someone in our Discord was actually talking about one of the previous episodes that we had where that Riku...
They called me out.
Something that Riku says that we kind of like discussed a little bit was her making an allusion to what Waka had said to her in the first game, which is really, really cool. I don't remember the specifics, but I think it was about...
I think
like,
Waka
made an allusion to what Riku said to her or to him, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All the Aura's memories, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna move the goalpost on that and say that my point is that it's a dumb saying.
I already lost track of who said it originally, but if you're gonna say something that Waka said originally is a good thing, then I got bad news for you, buddy.
Anyway. Yeah, so they tried to find Yuna. They were unsuccessful, but obviously she's finally back. And
brother's been blubbering, but
he's been crying about it.
What
the whole
else is
time.
new?
He's been blubbering about how he couldn't go on living if something were to happen to you.
So Yuna explains to them that there's like a blackout, fade out scene where
they're
she
like, what
explained
happened? And instead of getting dialogue of her explaining what we saw 4 seconds ago, it
just fades out, and fades back in. And so she's told everybody that she's like, she understands the story about like Len and Shuyin now and like what their part is in like all this mess.
This is when Shinra like actually like mentions like, oh yeah, Len's the owner of the dress sphere that we have.
Yeah.
Right. Songstress one. And then it's like, why didn't you tell us? Like, nobody asked.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, sure, she wore that dress 1,000 years ago. And he's like, yeah, no one asked. I'm just a kid.
It's interesting that the music from 1,000 years ago is still very, like, hip and trendy.
Oh, yeah. Call them standards.
Yeah, Yuna says to herself, like, what Shinra said surprised me, but only a little. So there really was a connection. And Riku asks, like, oh, so is that the reason Shuyin kept calling Yuna Len?
Yeah, and Shinra's like, oh, I can't say for sure. And then brother just kind of cuts in. He's like, forget Len. Shuyin's the one wanting to vaporize Spira. And Buddy's like, yeah, but what can we do about it? And just discussion further. Nuge and Gipple are already planning something. Let them deal with it for now. And
that's right, because I forgot that Nuge and Gipple went into the wormhole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
they're doing something.
So the party kind of discusses like what they should do, and they kind of like come to a conclusion of like, hey, maybe we should just like sit this one out for now. Like, let's just like chill and see what happens with Nuge and Gipple and Bearlight, because they clearly have something going on. We don't understand what their motivations entirely are. So like, let's just hang back and like see what happens for the moment, right? And so we're allowed to kind of like hang out on the Celsius. Yeah, Celsius. Yes. I forget. I mess up the 10 and 10-2 ship all the time.
It's called the High Wind. It's fine.
And the High. So we're on the High Wind, and we're allowed to just kind of hang out and talk to people for now, while there's like a little bit of downtime. Like, not sure what we're gonna do. And during that, we can go talk to Pain and give her the 2 spheres that Nuge and Gipple gave us earlier when we were on the Farplane.
Right. We can't watch them yet.
That's right. Yeah, I can't see them yet. But Yuna does try to kind of be like, hey, what's the deal with them, And she's like, oh, they're old friends, We used to be in the Crimson Squad together, right? We go way back.
They proofread my novel. They liked it. They were the only ones.
But yeah, Payne does kind of say
I
like,
understand that reference.
Oh, we were on the same Crimson Squad, but we never got to like deploy. It never was a true thing because everybody died in the Crimson Squad. Like everybody was like killed.
Immediately, yeah.
Yeah, immediately. So we never got to do it. And she says it was an accident. And then she kind of tells us like, yeah, something changed. Nuge ended up shooting everybody, like trying to kill everybody. But we all survived. But knowing now that it was not Nuge, I choose to see it as an accident. Like I've never blamed him for it, even though he did it. I always knew something was weird. So as far as I'm concerned, no fault of his. It's just an accident. And as she's telling us this, like Riku kind of comes up and she's like, yo, what are you talking about? Are you talking about your past? Can you tell me about your past? And Pain is like, well, I was going to tell you, but now that you're being annoying about it, I'm still not going to tell you.
She points at her, like swipes her like finger at Riku's face. It's very cute. She also just kind of mentions like after all of that happened and they kind of went their separate ways, she went looking for answers because she could never quite understand it. She's like, so I went to look for answers. And Yuna kind of puts that together and she's like, so that's why you became a sphere hunter. You wanted to find some spheres to make sense of all, like why all this shit went down.
Right.
What about you? Shuyin isn't who you thought, is he?
No.
Maybe we should both let go of our past and focus more on what's to come.
Because, up until this point, all the spheres that we found, we thought it was Titus, but it was probably the Shu Yin guy.
Right. And when we were
Shu guy.
When we return to the bridge after this as well, there's a little bit of like back and forth about like, hey, you're not going to leave us, are you? Like now that you come to this,
there's discussion around Pain leaving because also kind of her motivations have been made clear, and she's like, well, like I don't really need to search for spheres anymore. Same for Yuna. It's like, well, my whole purpose was to find this guy. I kind of just found him, and turns out it's not the guy I was looking for. So
right,
what are we going to do? Why be a sphere hunter if what I'm hunting can never be found? That's what Yuna kind of thinks to herself.
That is a good line. But there's a good scene when they go back to the bridge. Riku asks Pain, you're not leaving us, are you? And she goes, well, I may not look like it, but I am having a good time.
Hell yeah.
And Buddy says, what about Yuna? Do you think she'll quit? And Brother says, in our bed, of course not. And then Pain says to Brother, also in Albed, who asked you, airhead? And everybody's like, whoa, what the fuck? She's been able to speak Albed the whole time. So they've kind of been like saying Albed things to each other sometimes, like around Pain. And it's like,
it was an elective.
She's just understood what they've been saying the entire time.
So. I feel like there was a moment earlier where I may have alluded to that as well, where there was like a scene where it kind of implied slightly that Pain could speak Albed, but I don't remember the specifics of it. But that kind of sticks out of my memory. If I'm lying and just making myself sound cool,
I know you're talking about,
but
something.
I feel like there was something where I was like, does that mean Pain can speak Albed or what? But
and the answer is yes.
And the answer is yes. There was also something that Riku said something in Albed to Pain at some point. I'm sure it was probably funny. I'll see if I can pull that up if you guys want to continue on.
Okay. Shinra interrupts the kind of scene, and he kind of like brings us into the next thing where he says, hey, I hate to interrupt, but Spira is falling apart without its leaders. And then we kind of go into the next little scenario or the next section where basically Shinra is like, hey, everything's going to shit. Do you want to check the comm spheres that I've placed around Spira that we've seen like Buddy and Shinra placing down like as we've been running through the world? He's like, do you want to look into those and then see what's happening around the world? And this is the majority of chapter 4. Is just looking into these comm spheres and then waiting for a couple seconds, and then a scene maybe starts. And it is a choice for this to be so much content of the game.
Yes. Choice is a good word for it.
Yeah. Put it this way. It's fine in the way that it is not required. You don't have to view any of these, but you do have to do it if you want to get 100%.
I was going to say, now, when you say required, because I was trying to wrap my head around this as a game development decision, and what I landed on is it was a pretty quick turnaround time from the last one, right? Like they kind of put this out pretty quickly, so I feel like time constraints was kind of a big opposition to the development of this game as a whole. I think there's a lot of really cool ideas. I think there's a lot of fun scenes, and it kind of just all came together in a strange way. A lot of this kind of felt like Lost Izalith and Dark Souls 1 to me, of just being like, well, there's DNA here for cool stuff, but it seems like they were kind of just like, well, let's just cover it all in lava and you know, like whatever,
it
doesn't matter, just ship it. That might be an unkind way of looking at it or whatever, but the phrase that I landed on this was optionally mandatory. Like optional mandatory. Like it is optional, but you need to do it to get 100%. So does that actually make it optional?
And not only, I was gonna say, not only do you have to do it for 100%, you also have to do it for several of the Chapter 5 episode completes. So for Mihan High Road, for instance, you have to engage with it if you want to complete episode 5, or if you want certain things to happen in Chapter 5 for your like final like prizes for continuing on through storylines. You do need to see the relevant scenes in the Comsphere network, or you just don't get the thing. So you might have like done everything perfectly every single time all the way up through to this point, and then you just miss a scene, and therefore you do not get your final reward when you go back to get it later. And like, why?
It's very baffling is another word that kept coming to my mind. And I was saying this in the green room before we started recording, but I kind of went through all of the phases of grief while going through this, to where there was like the bartering section and just being like, well, no, maybe this actually, because
this isn't gameplay.
I tried to be generous about it, because I'm like, okay, well, what would I do to make chapter 4 a more interesting chapter? How would I handle this lore dump? And my initial thought was like, oh, okay, I guess we're just doing it in kind of a mid-maxy way of being like, well, we just need to get 100%, so we need to go through here. And it's like, this definitely feels like it's a New Game Plus thing, in the same way of like last episode when there was that cutscene to go back to Bevel, which was really like counterintuitive, where it's like, this would be really fun if you just were playing the game like a normal person would play a game, of not being like, I need to be on every Wikipedia page, I need to look up every like thing. It feels like a Dark Souls quest, in where it's like, if it plays out for you in your game, it's a really cool reward of being like, oh, I found Siegmeyer in this place and I talked to him and I found him in this other place. Most of the time that's not going to happen, so it's like built around replayability and New Game Plus, to where you're like, well, I didn't do any of the Comspheres last time, I just went right through the game to get to the ending. What's going on with this Comsphere? Oh, look at this, there's a cute scene with Waka and Lulu here. I totally missed this in my first playthrough. That's super fun and cool, that's very cute. But when you're just like, oh no, to make progress in this game and get 100% on my first try through, I need to just sit here and look at every sort of thing. And then I was like, well, would I have liked it more if I had to take the airship to go to Besaid and then walk into town and watch the same cutscene play out, just as like a cutscene as they normally do? And it's like, so in that respect, I don't hate this, but also it's just like, it's not good. I'm not saying that this is a good way to do it, but it is certainly a way to do it.
The notion that we're doing it because a guide is telling us to do it, and not that like, oh, hey, there's some like secret like dialogue in this thing, makes it feel like work instead of just like pure curiosity.
Yeah, well, it's
but now knowing like, oh, if I want the good ending, I have to do all this stuff, makes it feel like a curse instead of like a gift.
Yeah, which is why I landed on the optional mandatory, because I'm like, yeah, this is all technically optional, but is it really? Because you're not being rewarded for like the curiosity, you're actually being like penalized for not being curious to go through these kind of clunky menus to play a cutscene, and oh, you only did that 3 times and then gave up? You were supposed to do it 6 times.
That's the worst part. That right there is the worst part. So there's no indication that you've seen every scene in an area. There's no indication that like there's another one coming up. And when you like go into a Comsphere, a lot of times the scene that you need to see for percentage doesn't start for like 30 or 40 seconds. So you have to like just sit there and like wait. And so like just today I did a couple where like I had to check in on Donna or whatever, and you have to check in on Donna and then just look at her sitting in a chair for like 30 seconds. And then she starts talking to herself. And I was just like, well, thank God I was doing something else and I was on my phone and I heard that dialogue come up, because like, I would have gone out of it.
this is like a multitasker's not dream. This benefits a multitasker because like if you're doing that, you're like, oh cool, now something started. Like I've missed several screenshots because I was like typing up notes when I went in there or something.
Right.
And then someone just runs on screen at like after an arbitrary amount of time passes and they start talking. And I was just like, oh shit, like I just missed some dialogue there. But like it's so funny because like I can't imagine playing this on like PlayStation 2 back in the day, and like that's just your entire TV is there, and you don't have like a phone to kind of do anything else. Like, so you're just kind of like, oh, I just sit here for a while. Like, it's so weird. It's so strange.
It's a lot of dialogue too.
There's a lot of dialogue.
Yeah. And I like all of these scenes. I like this as an idea, but it just started to feel like a menu tax and a load screen tax where it's just like, oh, okay, well, I do really like the interface of it. It's very, I think what the term for it now is Frutiger Arrow, which is like the name that the aesthetic of like the 2000s is, like the Windows XP aesthetic and stuff. I do like that, but it's also like, yeah, I like that, but not, I don't want to look at it for 4 hours.
Right. Yeah. There's some to like here. There's much to hate. Who's to say whether it's good or bad? Yeah. But
I think you can objectively say that it's bad, but it's not all bad is the point that I'm trying to make.
Right. Right. And I think like too, like, to me, it's not necessary. Again, the fact that you don't know that a scene is getting ready to start, or you haven't seen all the scenes yet, it's kind of like, okay, I saw a scene where Waka and Lulu talk to me about a thing. I don't suspect that there will be another scene 3 comm spheres in the same area later, where also it is Waka and Lulu talking about something very similar. So like, I've already talked to them. You could just make those one scene.
Yeah, it's again comparing everything to Dark Souls, which is an unfair comparison always. But it's like if you were going through an NPC's dialogue that was mandatory to continue their quest in later on down the road, and you had to exhaust their dialogue. But every time you get part of their dialogue, it then like sends you back to the bonfire, and then you have to walk back to them and talk to them again and stuff. Which like sometimes Dark Souls does that. That's also a failing of Dark Souls, but most of the time it's like, and again, I'm complaining about a game that came out like how many, like over 20 years ago or whatever, so it's like not really fair, but it's like it is definitely clunky. Like it's not the best.
I think the final thing that I have to say about it though, like given everything that I've just said, that we've all just described about it, I still do feel in my heart like if you're making a video game, you in fact should make a bunch of shit just weird and clunky on purpose, just to style on your players. So that being said, actually this rules.
There's a couple of times where like one scene happens and it's something I kind of chuckled at and I'm like, okay, I take it back. Every complaint I had, this actually kicks ass.
yeah, right.
Normally it was anything to do with Bartello. But yeah, if you are not as familiar with this part of Final Fantasy X-2, the comm spheres are what we kind of all through last chapter had to make random stops into certain areas, and we saw and heard Shinra walking and dropping the little like sphere onto the ground.
It's just like a Nest doorbell that he just plops at everything.
Yeah, these are Shinra's pervert cameras. Like it's,
Kinda, yeah.
The ethics of this are also very weird. Of just like him just putting them in places, and like when he put it in Bavel, he's like, "Oh, we can use this for reconnaissance," and you're like, "Okay, they're like kind of our enemy, so I can see the appeal of that." But then like, oh, there's just one in Donna's room. Oh, there's just one by
Donna kind of drags it around, which is
Donna is aware of it for sure, but there's also a point where Donna's talking and she doesn't want anyone to hear her, and it's like
she's just freaky like that, I guess.
It is the Next Door app. It is the Nest doorbell of just like the security state, and the security state is Shinra.
That's right.
But yeah, I think Shinra left it for Kilika. I think he just left it on like the dock.
Yeah,
and she
and then the first time we watch it, we'll talk about is that we see her basically carrying it to her house.
But yeah, I guess we should kind of get into the meat of like what
let's do. So to start out with the most ridiculous thing of all time, to see the first scene in Besaid, you need to watch the comm sphere 3 times. The first 2 times, absolutely nothing happens. So if you're like not looking at a guide and you're like, okay, I need to watch every single scene, so that I get all my percentage completion. The first 2 times is nothing. So you just have to, like, for some reason be like, but a third time, maybe something will happen. In fact, it does.
Yep.
Just wait. The first 3 episodes are kind of slow, but it really picks up after.
That's right. That's right. Which is
You
just
get lost in the footnotes a little bit, but it's worth the read.
Yeah.
But when we open up the comm sphere, it's very similar to like deciding where we travel to with Buddy.
Yes, it's like the same kind of screen.
Yeah. There
we
is
get little like hotspot things, and like we see little like I think like almost like sonar rings coming off of the different like points on the map. If there's something, I guess.
Yeah, there was like 4 of them, and that corresponds to the first 4 that we need to look at, which is a nice little graphical thing. But then the next round of it, where it's like even more like this is actually not optional, and at this point I was like, this is kind of fine because it's like there's a diegetic reason for you to be doing this, where I think Buddy's like, hey, like we're on our way, we'll be there soon or whatever. Go check out the comm spheres to see what's going on.
Sure.
That's why I was like, oh, well, maybe this was meant to be like, as time is passing in the game, you need to see that time is passing, and maybe they're traveling around. It's like, while you're traveling, like instead of just like fast traveling there, you get to see these little cutscenes, you know? But no, the next point that we have to do it's like your option is to just go to the place that you need to go and nowhere else, or watch these.
Yeah, right. So yeah, the first one that we see is just Waka walks out of his house, and like Yuna and he just kind of shoot the shit about like what's going on in the world. No like new information.
This one had a slow start because you're just panning around the like.
You're getting the feel for like what this is like. It's very similar to the little puzzle that we did on Besaid with the treasure chest like sphere thing that we had to look around for the numbers and stuff.
But eventually Waka comes out of his hut and like,
hey Yuna, how you been, huh?
Well, not too bad. How are things in Besaid, Waka?
It's okay. It's been pretty quiet, yeah? No more fiends in the temple.
Really?
That's what Becklem says, and he patrols the place every day.
They're just doing small talk.
He does say that like Becklem is going to leave soon. Like he's been called back to New Yevon Youth League headquarters. So he'll be leaving us soon. And that's really
what a
it,
shame.
You know? What a shame.
I'm gonna miss Becklem.
I thought Becklem was with Yevon because
was he
orcs
Yevon?
are all very Yevon-y. Right?
Okay, yeah, maybe it was New Yevon. I probably just yeah. I think you're probably.
I feel
right.
like it was, when we heard about the Aurochs being aligned with Yevon, it felt very like
no. I am looking right now. It says Youth League's having some trouble. They've called him back to the headquarters, so he is Youth League.
Okay,
yeah. I did. I had to like think about it too. I was like,
I mean, that's why Waka is not part of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes sense because like when we have the scene where he's talking about burning down the temple, he's like, "This shit is dumb. Like this didn't help anybody. Like fuck these people." So, but anyway, yeah. And Waka's just like, "Hey, I got this place covered. Don't worry about it." And that's about it.
Yeah. No more fiends coming out of the temple. We fixed that problem. So
yeah. Crazy that you had to sit there 3 times to see that. So if you watch the sphere 6 times, nothing happens on watch 4 or 5 either. So if you're insane enough that you're like
townspeople walking around and shit, but it's like it's very odd.
Yeah.
There's nothing of substance happens.
No. And if you're insane enough to be like, but maybe something of substance will happen on the 6th time, well, you're rewarded because you do get a small scene where the Aurochs are practicing and then Becklem comes in and he's mad at them. And that's about it. Like nothing really.
Yeah,
happens.
I saw a bunch. Yeah, there was a few
that
of
one
the
I think
Aurochs getting like bumbling
more
around.
confusingly, Curtis. I think that's actually in the next set of it. After we watch a cutscene on the bridge, is when the Becklem shit happens. Because right now it's just Waka, just kind of has his dialogue, and then we go to Kilika. This is the first 4 which are separated off from the rest.
I'm pretty sure I had that one immediately. There's another Becklem one later where we talked to Becklem.
So on the first Comsphere network, it is view Besaid Island Comsphere and speak to Waka. Then view Kilika Island Comsphere, speak to Donna. Mushroom Rock Road Comsphere, speak to Yibel. Bevel Comsphere, and speak to Maroda. Might take a while to appear.
Oh
then
my
you go on
God,
the
you're right.
Celsius.
Oh
we
my
have
God, you're right.
See, even when we like
There are
prepare
so many.
notes and shit, it's still like, and there were so many times where I was following along with the guide and I was like, did I fuck it up? Because it's not working the way that I thought it would.
I fucked this
is
up
not in the
several
same
times,
order.
I want you to
What is
know.
happening? What are we going to do? It's so fucking bad.
Yeah, so this first few is like the mandatory ones that kind of dip our toes in.
You're
Like,
right.
all right, if you want to keep
This
going,
is-
you can.
And there's
Dear
a
listener,
clever way.
this shit is insane.
There's a clever way that the game illustrates this to you, which is those sonar rings that happen on the 4 ports: Besaid, Kilika, Mushroom Rock Road, and Bevel. I think you can go to all of the different things, but those are the hot spots. Then after we do these 4 and we can make progress and decide to just continue on with our lives instead of going through the hell that we put ourselves through, or you can go back to the Comsphere network and see that just every fucking like place that you have visited, if you put down all the Comspheres, all of them are flashing. It's just like, oh yeah, you can look at all of these. You don't need to look at Xanarkin for anything, but it's showing up as a hotspot for you.
I hate this game. So I'm kind of just
stuff.
like, you know what? You all take the rest of the podcast. I'm gonna sit this one out.
So yeah, I can go through just kind of quickly
mistake.
so like Waka just has that thing. We go to Kilika Island and we see that the like our viewfinder is moving around. It's kind of like it looks like someone's walking around with it.
And it turns out like Kilika, as Donna saying, well, that's Kilika for you.
Yeah, we find ourselves in Donna's room, and she puts it down and then she sits in front of it and she says, "Yep, that's Kilika Port for you." From the moment Nuge disappeared, everyone's been running around in circles. Just look at them. No one knows what to do without someone barking orders at them. They've already started looking for a new leader. In fact, they even asked me. Figured a former summoner would make the perfect leader for the town.
They could have their own Yuna.
Yeah, and then Yuna says like, "Oh, why don't you?" And she's like, "Too busy looking after myself, dear." Like, fuck yeah. Hell yeah,
Hell
Donna.
yeah.
Donna's
Hell yeah,
experiencing brat summer and she wants nothing to do with leadership. Of course, I'll do what I can to keep things from getting too far out of hand, but until Nuge gets back, things are not going to be the same. So,
And that's it
Yeah.
for that one.
Yeah.
and this is all just world building for like shit that we already kind of know. Where it's like, how many more times do we need to tell you that everything is falling apart because the leaders are missing? And we know we saw the leaders recently. So it's just like...
And the next one's very similar, where we go to Mushroom Rock Road. We talk to Yaibel.
Youth League headquarters.
Yeah, Yaibel's talking about troubling... there's trouble
Troubling developments coming out of Bevel.
It seems a unit of New Yevon's troops have been gearing up for a raid. With Nuge gone, they're hoping to strike quickly and catch us off guard. But don't worry about us. We won't be so easily trapped. We're planning to launch a preemptive strike before they can attack.
And as soon as our preparations are complete, we move on Bevel. And Yuna's like,
Yuna's like, yeah, a little bit premature.
You're not even sure that they're planning attack, though, right? And he's like, in war, victory favors the bold. I must be off. Farewell. And again, if we didn't put in Yaibel's dialogue here, I need you to know that it is the same voice actor and the same voice treatment as Kevin from Mission Hill. And every time I'm like, you little fucking nerd. Oh.
It's also Robin from Teen Titans.
True. But he's not speaking like Robin. Like Robin actually kind of sounds pretty cool, same voice actor, but it's his nasally, mandarky kind of nerd voice that he uses for Kevin. Read issue 291! Like, it's like, shut the fuck up, you little dork. In my notes, I have, I think I wrote about it. I was like, Yaibel is a fucking dork, but it might just because of my bias against Kevin from Mission Hill.
Bling blong.
Bling blong, Gruber Greiber.
The next one we see...
Apparently, I'm looking at the script, and if we did not side with the Youth League, if we open up this Comsphere, Shinra will just say, someone threw the Comsphere into the sea.
Oh, really?
We don't even get to see this.
Damn, dude, so then we wouldn't have had to watch that shit.
Yeah,
would have been fucked out 100%, but we would have saved precious
scum
seconds.
have like planted a spy device on us. I'm sure that makes sense. Yeah.
That's so
right.
But yeah, over to Bevel.
Yeah, we go over to Bevel. Marode is there, and he's like spying on Bevel. But
he's just sitting in the middle of.
He's just sitting in the middle of the ground, and he's straight
the
up says...
The perfect place to spy, just right in the fucking center of...
He straight up says, he's like, everybody's running around like crazy, so I literally just get to walk around in the open and no one cares. Like, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
And then as soon as he says that, a guard does go like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, never mind. And he gets up and runs away.
This one also has a very a variation.
Yeah.
If you
nice,
side
cool.
with New Yevon, says, "What are you doing?" And like Murda says, "Well, for one, I'm running reconnaissance on New Yevon. The prayer's gone upside down. That's all very similar."
I overheard some priests talking a little while ago. They said, in times like these, we have no choice but to seek the High Summoner's aid.
Interesting.
Okay.
So there, it's just like more chatter.
Okay. And that so those are the necessary ones. Those are the only comm spheres that you have to see. Then we get a little scene where, because like I always break it up into 2 sections, and I always think of the section coming up as the first section.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
comm spheres. That's why I was like confused.
Yeah, how could you be confused about this totally straightforward part of the game, Curtis?
If you talk to Brother, he says if Spira needs a new leader, it must be someone with style, someone like me.
You know what? Fuck it. At this point, I'd follow Brother.
Speaking of the cutscene before we went to the comm spheres, I love that he was like doing this weird like
the
doll,
weird
like,
dance thing. Yeah,
he was walking like a flamingo or something. But he says Spira's 3 leading big shots have all gone AWOL. If I was one of the followers, I'd be pretty worried and scared. And yeah, Shinra's mentioning that things are going to get ugly.
Yeah, they're all like pretty worried about the future of like Spira at this point, right? They're all kind of like, "Oh shit, this is going to be fucked up. We gotta figure out something to do here."
Yeah, Payne's like Vegna guns on the loose, and you can bet Shu Yin's controlling that thing. Riku says, "I wonder if Gipple and the others are trying to destroy it." And Payne is like, "Yeah, who knows?" But like, you remember what Barrel Eye said: Vegna gun activates when it senses hostility. If they try to get near it, it's likely to become even more dangerous.
And that's dialogue that only exists because we saw that other cutscene.
Right.
Optional cutscene.
Yeah, and Riku kind of chimes in with what everyone is thinking at this point in the game, which is, "Oh, nothing makes sense anymore. I mean, just what the heck are we supposed to do?"
Nuge spoke to me on the Farplane. He told me to take care of things topside. As if it were the simplest thing to do, really. And everything was going so well.
And then she kind of has like she's thinking to herself about how that's what she had thought at the time, but she changed her mind and she does want to help. And Nuge said he asked me to help, and that's what I'm gonna do. So Yuna's not quitting the Gull Wings, and she's actually gonna help with this clusterfuck going on up here. So they need a good plan. They need a plan to unify. Unify everyone. The tensions are high. There's many different factions. They all hate each other. They're all like at each other's throats. What is the only thing that can bring everyone together?
A lady president.
It's true.
A top 40 pop hit, a new Billboard #1.
Hell, that's fucking yes.
We're gonna have a Muppet plan.
Literally,
we gotta raise somebody to save the theater.
I'm glad I like that your brain went to Muppet, because that is a much better thing. Where my brain just went to, dude, it's Wayne's World 2, the game. Let's fucking go, dude.
I was gonna say Final Fantasy X-2 Electric Boogaloo. They have to save the rec center.
Listen, Jim Morrison told me in the Farplane that if I book them, they will come.
As for the Albed who had Owaka's shop before he took over, we had to beat them to death with their own shoes. But that's a whole nother story altogether. We had to get a brandy glass filled with brown M&Ms, or else Ozzy wouldn't go on stage.
So yeah, basically,
I like that Brother says, "Alrighty, let's smash that action figure. We'll risk our lives and protect Spira from Vegna gun." Like.
I was very confused as what he meant by action figure at first, and then when he says Vegna gun, I'm like, I'm glad he actually said that, because my dumbass was like, he's been talking about beating the shit out of Shu Yin for like...
My brain keeps getting confused in my head, like what it looks like with Vice's big mech that he fights at the end of Dirge.
Yeah. I don't know, it's I feel like it's like... Kind of seems like it's an Ava unit of this world. Why didn't Vegna gun just fight Sin, dude? Sin is an angel, and Vegna gun, I assume, is an Ava unit of some kind. We just need to find some children to put in it.
Speaking of, we did not watch the treasure spheres yet.
We did not. The Crimson Spheres, yeah. Correct.
Well, okay, before we do that, just to recap, just to make sure it's clear, we are going to put on a big concert and invite everybody in the world to come to it.
Spira, yeah.
Let's get Shalinda on the case again.
Mm-hmm. So their thought is like, okay, how can we organize a show of that magnitude? We need someone who never fails to organize a big show and
someone
isn't
who's
a constant
really good
fuck up.
at booking big acts.
Who is not always fucking up, who is not like completely made a mockery out of their last several shows. We should go get Tobley.
Yeah, let's get Tobley.
This is like reaching out to the guy who like just performs at the cafe doing solo sets playing Wonderwall. It's like, hey, I got an idea for a big festival.
Yeah, right.
We gotta get the guy who what was it, Fire Festival or whatever. We need to get that guy in charge of this right now. It'll be perfect. I also like how they landed on this. We kind of glossed over it, but when they're we can't fight. Like fighting is not going to bring everyone together. What are we going to do? And Payne, and just like in a shitty way, is just like, what, sing campfire songs? And Brother's like, that's it. That's what we're gonna do. That's just crazy enough to work.
Every idea is like, well, if Yuna dances,
yeah, it's true.
Obviously, that like,
since the beginning, wait. I just thought of the implications of that.
She's just gonna send everyone.
Yeah, when Yuna dances, people die. She's gonna kill everyone.
When will
She's
Yuna
been
stop
possessed
dancing?
by Shu Yin and is gonna wipe out all of Spira. Oh no.
I can't imagine the tweets like, oh my gosh, this video of Yuna is sending me.
Fuck. Oh, that's good.
See y'all next week.
But yeah, they're wondering where Tobley is, and Payne says he's in the Moonflow, and Brother's like, yeah, let's move out, Go Wings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or Yuna.
There is some good Yuna dialogue here, just like the narration. I began this journey hoping to find you, but I know now that may never happen. Still, I will keep walking these roads. I have to find where they connect. I have to see it for myself.
Yeah. Which is good. I think that's a good like turning point for the game to be like the beginning of the game was about trying to find Tidus or whatever and discover what that is. But we've discovered a bigger issue for the world. So like
an RPG where the first initial mission that you start your journey on isn't the main goal by the end of it. No way.
No way. A plot twist. I cannot believe this.
The game does a really clever thing to let you know that there's still more that you can do on the comm spheres, which is they have fucking Shinra standing next to you and he just says, would you like to check the comm spheres? The sphere waves keep pouring in. And it's like, no, fuck, I don't. I don't want to do that, but I have to and I'm going to, and I hate that I have to do it.
And that's when you have to check the comm sphere so many times.
And that's when you have to watch it 6 fucking times to get like Becklum to be like, you guys
suck. And then that's
you guys suck. I'm still saying you suck.
And then like nothing of consequence happens. You just see him do that.
You do get to see the Aurochs fucking around, which I did greatly enjoy.
I do always like to see my boys.
I think Keepa tries to do like Titus's move where he jumps up and kicks back. I don't know if it's I guess it's not the Jack shot, but like Titus's signature move that he does in the opening cutscene.
I've been trying to learn it.
Where he does like the backflip kick and it just fucking has the blitz ball nail the comm sphere and then it breaks the comm sphere and I'm like, fuck yeah, take that shit, you little shit.
There's also a scene where like Waka's running around in a circle really fast because he's pretty sure it's about time for his kid to be born.
That's so simple.
Oh my god, when I was trying to just figure out how to do this, because like we said, we did the first ones that are just gimmies, like you just go and you watch them, and now I'm like trying to make sure I don't get locked even more out of 100% and I get to see everything this week. And in the comm sphere, the dog just walked directly in front of it and was sitting there, and I'm like, is this a scene? Like, and it's just like, no, it's just the very low poly dog that we all know.
It's my favorite show, buddy.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, this is actually pretty good.
Big improvement.
But yeah, Yuna asks like, "Oh, is it time, Waka?" Because he's freaking out and running around. He's like,
"Yeah, I mean, no, not yet. It's just that I can't sit still, you know."
Waka, you have to calm down.
You're the 8th person to say that, yeah.
And he just kind of runs all over the place, and then that's
that
scene after going into the prompt 3 fucking times for that to happen.
I do think that it is like I enjoy it as writing to have a character say yes. I mean no. always comedic gold. It works like, every time. Like if you're writing a book, just do that once. It's great.
In Futurama, when there's all the robot elders on the robot planet, and all of them just keep saying silence and then continuing on with like what they're saying instead, and then the one just goes silence. I concur.
I guess there's also like a optional scene where like you see a girl and a boy playing like hide and seek.
Yeah.
Which is cute. I guess there is an optional one where a dog just looks at the comm sphere.
Yeah, that's the thing is like there are several.
The dog should have pissed on it.
Yeah, there are several things that will play when you watch them, but not all of them are percentage. Right, you only get percentage for the dialogue.
Right,
and so after you've seen like 3 of them that are just like people walking in front of camera, 2 kids run around, dog sits in front of camera, you might be like, okay, I've gotten everything of substance, but no, you haven't.
Yeah, exactly.
I do feel like a weird creep like taking notes when I'm like just watching like CC television, just like, okay, but
it's weird, right? It's weird. It made me feel uneasy. I don't like how voyeuristic fucking Shinra is.
I feel like no one will get this reference, but I feel like we're like doing the sliver thing or whatever, but in like Final Fantasy X-2. No one will get that reference except for like freaks who watch disturbing movies. So
yeah, my brain went to the 4th book of The Dark Tower by Stephen King, where there's a witch who finds a looking glass and she becomes completely obsessed with just like watching people in it, and it's very fucking disturbing and creepy.
Love that.
Love that for her.
Love
Shout
that
out
for
to
her,
Rhea
Queen.
the Coos, fucking asshole.
So there's also another scene in Kilika where Donna is walking around with the sphere and explaining that like, yeah, the Youth League think that there's a attack force being mounted in the temple. We don't know that there is, but there might be. But they've shut it off completely. No one can get in or out, and so like families are split apart. And so you see a scene of like some kids releasing balloons, and they're like, yeah, the kids are releasing balloons, believing that like the balloon will reach their other family members in the temple, right?
Yeah.
See those kids? Their sister is in the temple too, and they haven't been able to see her.
I hope the balloons reach the temple.
They will.
And I was like, oh, that's a nice sentiment. It makes me like Donna.
Donna, we will learn through spying on her, even though she is in control of the camera for most of it, we will learn that she also wants these balloons to get there because she misses someone who is in that temple as well.
Speaking of, the very next scene you can see in Kilika is just Donna sleeping on her bed. And if you watch Donna sleeping for long enough, which weird, but if you watch her sleeping for long enough, she'll just go, Bartello, apologize. And it just says that in her sleep. And I was like, that's good.
There was a nice moment. I'm just going through my screenshots on all of this too, where back on the bridge when you talk to Pain, she's like, "When you fought Sin, everyone came together and sang the Hymn of the Faith. Remember, I sang too." And it's very nice that it's like, we didn't even know Pain then, and she's like such a badass. You wouldn't expect her to like go in for that kind of shit.
Yeah,
but she's just like, "Yeah, I'll sing along with everyone else in Spira." Like
you hear that from a couple people while we're doing the Comsphere things, and it's always like interesting people, like villains and stuff, who are like, I hate you, but also,
of course. It's like no atheists in trenches or whatever. Pain also says, like, at the time my friends were scattered and I was alone, but during the hymn, for just a little while, I felt connected again. And I thought that was really nice. And that's also like a voice line, which usually doesn't happen on the like the bridge of the ship. But
right. There are a couple during this part.
Yeah, and she also says, like, something about the way you say, I want to do something really packs a punch.
Yeah, very nice. So after that, we can check the temple in Kilika, and Bartello's there, and he's kind of like asking about like what the situation in town is, and Yuna's kind of like, oh, it's not good everywhere. There's like an attack. People think that you have an attack force here, and you guys think that there's an attack force in town. It's not going well, and so Bartello is like, oh no, Donna's in town. I shouldn't be here. What am I doing? And he just screams, Donna, and his like voice is so loud that he shatters the comm sphere. And I was
really, really excited about this to start off like the Comsphere journey with them getting broken in comical ways, like the Aurochs being so bad at Blitzball they accidentally break it.
Right.
Fucking Bartello being such a Chad that he just shouts it like the fucking Dragonborn and like destroys it. But like. And I was like, cool. And then it's like, that's a good way for the game to be like, you don't have to watch anymore because it shows in the top corner. You can't zoom anymore. You can't move the camera anymore. It says offline, even though you can still watch it. So that's like a good indicator. Like, okay, I've done my thing. So I'm like, I can't wait to see how every single one of these does it. And then like, not all of them do it.
Yeah,
and it was like pretty much like just these two for the most part. And I was like, oh.
One of my favorites, I think, is next, which is in Luca.
What? The last part of the Luca one is really good. Yeah.
So it's just Shalinda going around getting like just kind of blurbs from everyone about like their opinion of what like the whole like everyone's in a panic.
Shinra says his comm sphere is picking up rogue sphere waves. So instead of seeing through whatever his comm sphere is, it's being hijacked by like the camera. So we're basically watching the news, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's Shalinda interviewing people, and she interviews like 3 people, and the first 2 have very like uber generic political takes.
I think it's about time the people in charge stop fooling around and get their acts together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they need to tell the rest
get
of
these
us.
clowns out of Washington.
But then the third guy
I love
is so
guy.
legit.
This guy is like, he's like Jim Carrey is a Robotnik, but he just sounds like a fucking Boston, like, the fucking Swaks, my guy.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit as long as the beer is cold.
Anything you'd like to say to Spira?
Well, I don't know much about no New Yevon or Youth League politicking, but I figure once blitzball season starts up, everything will be just fine.
Yeah, I don't know much about no New Yevon.
Go Birds.
Yeah, I was literally like, this dude is extremely Go Birds coded, like the most Philadelphia Spirin, and I fucking love him.
Honestly, like a big sports game would probably also bring people together just as much as a concert.
True, yeah. I mean, the most peaceful.
Speaking of Space Jam.
The most peaceful I've ever felt in the fine city of Philadelphia was after the Eagles won the Super Bowl and everyone went to Broad Street and they had to block the roads.
Except for me, who lived on Broad Street.
Oh, damn, that sucks.
The most unsafe I ever felt in the city.
I might have been. I might have said this on the show before, but when the Eagles won, I remembered calling my boss. Like I was at work and I was like, can I please take like a 20-minute break and go outside? And he was like, you know what? You won the Super Bowl. It's fine. And so he let me just leave
Ebenezer
work for like 20
Scrooge
minutes.
The Philly version of Ebenezer Scrooge letting the workers go home on Christmas Eve an hour early.
That's right.
And then I just remembered trash trucks blocking every intersection so that it was like a gigantic block party. And I was like, that is so fitting for Philly, and I love it with all of my heart.
So, the next thing on here is Mihin High Road. So, every time we go to Mihin High Road, something happens, and then there's always like a weird scene in it or something that you should notice. And it all kind of comes together here. Now, this is where, like, I think that the comm spheres as a concept should have remained in the game, and it should have been just this. There should have been like, hey, do you want to check the comm spheres? I put like 10 of them in Mihin High Road, and then you do this, because this rules, in my opinion. I think this is cool.
This was a good implementation of it.
Yeah.
If it didn't like lock you out of shit, and there was a couple of times where I like think I fucked up, and I don't know if I'm actually gonna
you can't fuck it up.
The reward, I think I did, and I'm like, fuck. But so that not so great, but like this as a reason to use the comm spheres is way better than the other one. It literally felt like being on like looking through security footage on like the cameras.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes, this is Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah.
Like I had to do this. Yeah. I had to do this at my job before, because as an IT person, I'm able to look through like the camera DVR and shit. And one time, someone in the New York office like called me first thing in the morning when they got in. They're like, can you check the cameras, because the all glass door to the conference room is just fucking destroyed and shattered.
Oh my god.
Like, what? So I had to like go through the footage and see. I was like, okay, it was intact at midnight, so it wasn't anyone at the office. It was still intact at like 4 a.m. 6 a.m. it wasn't. It was just shattered. So I had to like watch through and go. And it just straight up shattered on its own. There's like a 1% chance of those type of like tempered glass or whatever to break. And I was like, it was either that, the scientific thing, or you got ghosts in that office and I'm not coming there anymore.
Or Bartello was around and he was shouting.
Bartello and Donna got into a fight in the hallway.
Yeah, Donna! All of again doors in the data center explode.
I was getting kind of Blue's Clues energy because of how Rin addresses the camera.
Can you see where something's wrong?
Well, I
in this
can't
picture?
I can't figure out this mystery. Can you?
Okay, let me explain what it is. Like the gist of it. Obviously, there have been like weird happenings on Mihin High Road.
It's like Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, as we've gone through. And Rin basically, as soon as we go to the Mihin High Road sphere, he comes up and he's like, hey, there's weird things going on, and I think they might all be related. So I've been investigating it. Can you help me with the investigation?
Yeah, he's placed more comm spheres along Mihen High Road to help keep tabs on it.
I placed a bunch more. Obviously, I can't watch them all. I can't be everywhere at once. Do you want to help me investigate? And so we say yes, and we're able to like scroll through them.
I think 8 different angles.
Yeah, and then pan around and then hit a button if we think that something weird is happening or has happened that Rin should come look at. Okay, so that's the gist of it. So like you were saying, sorry.
But yeah, that's kind of what it felt like, because every time you hit like summon, like Rin is like immediately off camera. Like this never takes. He just immediately is there.
Yeah, he's like immediately
there. Yeah. It's pretty funny. I found that pretty weird. And then I'm like, well, I'm glad it wasn't another 40 seconds of waiting for him to run there. I'm glad he was just there instantly.
And then he goes, can you see what's wrong with the scenario? Can you point at it? That's right. There's a hovercraft that's fallen off the bridge.
It's one of those fucking touchscreen games at like a bar that they used to have where it's like you see 2 pictures next to each other and you're like, that soda can's not in this one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This is highlights, baby.
yeah, that's right. So basically, throughout the course of the game, every time we go to Mihen High Road, there are slight deviations in how we're able to complete every mission. So, for instance, when we're doing the Machina fight, where we're trying to clean up more than the Al Bhed could clear out more Machina than we do, which steers this into another direction. Or the thing about like the Chocobo Eater, if we don't arrive in time, that steers it into another direction. And so there's many, many endings that this can have and many ways it can go, depending on the actions that we take, not only during this portion, but the previous portions as well. So basically, like, something is wrong on the Mihen High Road, and there's like 6 possible culprits, and you can point whoever that culprit is in a certain direction depending on your process through the other 3 chapters and what you decide to point at for Rin to go look at. So you can kind of intentionally finger somebody if you want to.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different options. Now, there's one option that's way, way, way better than the other ones, because the accessory you get is the best accessory in the game, in my opinion. Like, it's incredible. Nice. But regardless, so I kind of know it can happen. So I suppose I will like start us off going through what everything is. So the first one that I went to, and I'm following the guide on Steam, is we go to, do you remember where Riku was up on top of a pedestal?
Yeah, it's one of the ruins.
Yeah, and she jumps off and then like lands on her butt and then gets up and goes. But when she lands, there's a big metal clang instead of like what you would think of when you land in the dirt or whatever, right? So
it's a big metal rod sound effect.
Yeah, so we're in that area, and there's a bunch of footsteps and a Machina that's kind of like walking weird, and we can call Rin over, and he goes, oh, what's this? There are footprints on top of the Machina. Like somebody has like been on top of this Machina. Yeah. That's very weird.
Wait, so are they implying that Riku just drop kicked this Machina?
We'll see. We'll see what happened. Because remember, the bad thing that happened was that the Machina went haywire and started attacking people, and like everything fucked up, right? And there was this entire like, oh my god, people could have been killed. What's going on? Why do these Machina?
They're acting out of defense.
Yeah. What happened, right? So that was the first one. The second one is we go over to the bridge where we were looking at during the end of the Chocobo catching mission, right? And Rin, if we call Rin over there, he says, there's marks here indicating that something fell into the ravine. And like, if you remember during that one, I made a point that there was like a hover going over the bridge and Riku's running right at it. And then the camera changes and we see Riku, but no hover or whatever. Like, who knows where that is?
Oh, so like, whoa, weird.
Yeah, so that's coming back now. And after those 2, Rin says, seems we're getting closer to the heart of the mystery. Then if we look in the ravine, there's a man who's injured and an overturned hover. And so we can call Rin in, and he says, the Machina have found a wounded man in the brush. Fortunately, his wounds are not severe. I'll take him to safety after I've surveyed the area.
He's probably been there for a while.
If we go to the travel agency, we see
or the front of it.
The front of it, I'm sorry. If we go to the front of it, we see a seagull flying by and the chocobo eater running after it.
It's a small one.
It's a little small one.
Yeah, it's like a little baby one.
Yeah. And Rin says, how strange. That fiend never used to feed on the Spira gulls. Maybe it's expanded its palate. So he's not sure, right? Then if we go to the back of the travel agency, there's somebody back there. And if we call Rin in, he's like, hey, who are you? Like, what are you doing back here? And importantly, behind the travel agency is the Machina calibration area. And she runs away. And Rin's like, that was a simple enough question. I wonder why she ran away. Maybe she has something weighing on her conscience. And then we see another chocobo eater scene. If we go back to the bridge. Yep. And he thinks that the chocobo eater is trying to eat it, but he's not certain. Then if we go back to the front of the agency, we see the individual who was injured in the ravine, who's like laying there recovering. And Rin says, the man we found injured on the old road spoke deliriously as I brought him here to safety, but his information has proven most enlightening. And then if we go back to the back again, so there's we're just going all over the place. If we go back to the back of the travel agency, we see a guy who's working on the roof, and he falls off of the roof and lands on a machina, and then that machina malfunctions, right? Mm-hmm. And if you call Rin over, he goes, oh, somebody's injured. Let me investigate. The guy's fine, though. And Rin says,
it looks like it really hurt. You like landed head first.
Yeah, he landed head first.
Painful.
Yeah. And then Rin says, thankfully the drone machina seems to be okay. If a shock alone caused them to malfunction, we would be in trouble. And then he thinks to himself and he goes, machina, a shock, ho.
I believe it is all starting to fall into place. I will handle the rest of the investigation and think more on this evidence. I am grateful for your help, Lady Yuna.
And so I feel like we can kind of see where this is going, where we see multiple instances of Riku being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then all of a sudden the Machinas start going crazy. The Chocobo Eater thing, I think the thing with that is that you can get the Chocobo Eater scenes and get more of Rin's dialogue without explicitly 100%. Fingering the Chocobo Eater as the
Okay. There was one that I missed in there, and it was the travel agency front and the travel agency back, and I think the reason why was because you get 8 cameras or whatever, like Alex said, you get the different scenes that you can investigate and call Rin for. And I missed the Machina is malfunctioning one, where it's there's a lady there who just runs away. Because I did the travel agency front, and then I did some of them out of order. So by the time I got back to the backside of it, where it's that number disappears. It's not 1 through 8 the whole time. It's if you're on camera 1, you can only do 2 through 8. So it's there was something in there where I just was scrolling around and looked at the guide wrong, I have been doing every episode.
It's so hard. It's so hard to do it consistently.
And I just completely missed that one. I was I guess I don't know how much the sequence matters, but I'm assuming if I missed one of these, I might have just fucked myself out of it completely. So we will see, I guess.
So let's see here.
Anything left for Rin's Mihen mystery right now?
No, that's really it for that one.
My notes here, where I was just going through as I was going through this, it says you'll have to view a bunch of these scenes here and call Rin when something happens, and then I have an arrow pointing to that, and it said filled me with actual dread.
I think the next thing was Jose Temple, which has some interesting stuff.
So yeah, I don't have the dialogue for because the next section is in Jose Temple, and it's all in Albed. Although you get 3 or 4 primers during it, so by the end of these scenes, it's oh, actually, I can read a lot more of it.
It's oh, that would have been helpful when this scene started.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's again, this just illustrates to me this is New Game Plus shit.
Right.
But yeah, it's mostly just the Albed guys inside the temple just saying, oh, everything's pretty things are crazy, but we're holding it down because Gipple's missing everything else. We don't need orders to get things done. We think on our own. That's the Albed way. Scene 2, there's more dialogue, but we hear word of a frightful fiend that has been ravaging the Beaconell Desert, which I think comes up later.
Oh.
Yeah.
And someone's I bet my right arm has something to do with fighting again.
That's a good boss.
There's discussion about what was the password.
The password. All right, they're talking about the cactus, right? The name of that talking cactus.
Yeah. That's right.
One scene they reveal that the holes in the temple was caused by something burrowing from below, not dug down.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, so the hole was not dug from above; it was tunneled out from underneath, as if something deep within the earth dragged the faith into the abyss.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
But the final one, which is pretty funny, is that an Albed lady literally just points, I think, referring to the comms, who are think we can use this for parts, and then literally yoinks it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And Shinra says, we've been burgled.
That's awesome.
She literally says, in Albed, yoink.
That's awesome.
I'm looking, and I think I might have also missed some of these, because it was I think the guy just says, you get another Albed primer, and I think I was like, cool, that's the last I need. I don't think I saw that one break, because in my notes awesome. I wish this comm sphere would break. Fuck.
We had a scene at Guado Salam with Ormy. We were just the comm sphere is pointing directly at the door to the LeBlanc hideout. Or the
Speaking of, because of this angle, so you know how the wall is it's made of vines and kind of so you can actually see through it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Ormy opens the door, it reveals that that's just a hallway that's perpendicular to the door.
Yeah.
So for him to come out, we don't see him approach the door, which means he's just hiding behind that door. When he closes the door, he just gets behind it, and you can't see him move down the hall or anything. So he's just standing behind that door waiting.
My screenshots for that are really good too, because it's just Ormy taking up the entirety of the door, and then it's him going closer and closer, slowly walking up, and I'm hell yeah, dude, what a fucking king. I love this guy.
It's coming right at me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Ormy is just mostly talking about LeBlanc is out looking for Nuge.
Yeah.
Where's LeBlanc?
Boss ain't here. Yup, she just up and left. Went out looking for clues to what happened to Nuge. Logos is out looking for her now. You guys don't know anything, do ya?
Ormy asks us, oh, you haven't heard anything, have you? And I don't know if Yuna's lying, because she knows something about Nuge, but
yeah,
right. She says she hasn't heard anything. Probably just in general, from about LeBlanc or anything.
Yeah, no. I do like the next scene is on the Thunder Plains. And if you go into Thunder Plains, you can just see a chocobo in the background. And Yuna's like, oh shit, it's a chocobo. We saw one. And Shinra's like, yeah, do you want to catch it? And she's like, oh, what do you mean? And he uses a thing called the Choco Porter, which is a teleporter that he can just
It's like a good beer.
Yeah, Choco Porter.
Yeah, chocolate porter, dude.
But he can just kidnap or catch chocobos remotely by beaming them somewhere.
Yeah, who knows how.
I since it's Shinra, I will say that what's it called? Kidnapping is the correct term to use for it.
Yeah, I didn't want to be charitable about it.
I do like the animation of the chocobo kind of getting transparent and stuff, and getting all wobbly
it's very silly
as the light engulfs it to teleport it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of teleporting, we can go to what's next, the Macalania Woods.
That's right.
Where we see our musician friends teleporting in. We see the gang's all here.
We got Donga,
Pukatak, and the rest.
And Beira.
Yeah.
The classics.
And the rest.
But yeah, Donga in his great Shrek, Scottish accent says,
we were all sleeping quite happily when we had a peculiar dream.
During our sleep, the faith did speak. Spira shakes, churns and spins. A fearsome power lies within. Now it's gone and sucked us in. This horrid dream, what could it mean?
Now it's gone and sucked us off.
Just more musicians glooming about how their home's gonna just disappear eventually.
Yeah, that is interesting though. We just heard the people in Jose Temple be like, yeah, something grabbed the faith from inside the earth. And then you talk to them and they're like, yeah, we had a dream with the faith, and the faith said something sucked us into the earth. And I was like, I guess that did happen.
Holy shit, I didn't even connect that two. That makes perfect sense. Shit.
I didn't even think about it when I was going through it, but now that we're talking about it while recording, I'm like, oh, look at that. What do you know?
I thought you were holding scissors, Curtis. Curtis is holding needle nose pliers, and it looks like he was just like cutting into his fingers. But instead, no, he's just clamping them. I was like, huh. Anyway, Beira says the faith that protected Spira are not immune to the forces of destruction. These woods too will perish, and we along with them. And then they all disappear, which they've been alluding to a lot. It's the kind of thing where it's like they've been alluding, like to me, this kind of reads as like, oh, if you missed this dialogue earlier, that is why they are reiterating it here. But at the same time, I feel like if you missed the dialogue earlier, this scene probably would not have happened. You wouldn't get to see it because that's the way that Final Fantasy X-2 works a lot of the time. Right. So I'm like, okay, just more like, I get it. Yeah, you guys are going to disappear. I would like to stop that if I can find a way to, but...
The second Macalania sphere is the one at the travel agency that Owaka took over from the Al Bhed. And I like that we basically ask him like, hey, how's business going? And he's like, oh, terrible. I decided to like take over the travel agency out where there are no people. Yeah. Turns out it doesn't work very well.
Motherfucker, do you remember the last goddamn conversation we had where you're like, why would you do it here? Like, there's nothing but fiends around here. And he's like, then I'll sell to the bloody fiends. It's like, I can't really feel bad for you, dude.
The reality is setting in now of what he has done.
I am an investor, and you have fucked me, brother. I have given you so much gil through the ways of buying you potions and selling them back to Barkeep. Me taking a loss so I could then buy more of your shitty potions.
Yeah, it's been a bummer.
Yeah, it's not working out very well for him. But
going back to actually, I'm looking at the script and I didn't keep watching because I don't know if it's required for 100%. But at the woods entrance, there's some varying degrees of things that could happen if we stopped Garrick at the mountain.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
So if we stop Garrick, we'll just like it says scene 2. If you stop Garrick, 2 Guados appear. Like, okay, cool. Scene 3. If you did not stop Garrick at chapter 3, this is like really ominous. It says Garrick enters, followed by an endless stream of other Ronso.
Oh,
jeez.
The light in the woods turns red.
Oh my gosh, really?
Holy shit, dark.
So they just storm on the Guado, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a bummer.
That is disturbing.
Yeah. And the Guado were like, yeah, I mean, we kind of deserve this, so let's just reserve ourselves to this horrible, horrible fate.
Ugh.
God, and if we go back and remember how we stopped Garrick, guessing at what any Ronzo wanted to hear or didn't want to hear or whatever the fuck, and getting lucky or following a guide. I do like that Owaka's spirits aren't fully broken, though. He did say, I decided I will stand by my shop, or me shop, because that's the way he talks, and stand by me shop I will. Just you watch, I'll be bigger than Rin. So he's got like the confidence, which I'm like, you know what? I like your swag. I'm not feeling good about my investments right now, but god damn it, I like you. I like you enough to be fine with it.
Owaka's gonna grind 365. He's hustling.
Keep not coming to my shop or buying any of my wares. I'll just grind harder.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but he says that all the travel agencies in Spira will be operating under the name of Owaka, and then he just walks back on into his shop.
This is his shop, which still has Rin's above the door. It still says Rin's.
Yeah, it sure does. Holy shit, yeah.
If we go to the Comsphere on Beaconell Desert, we see Nautila, who's there, and Yuna asks how it's going, and Nautila's like, "Oh, it's
Nautila says not a lot going on.
Not a lot."
Another perfect day for digging. Everyone's hard at work, but one thing: lately, there's been a pretty nasty fiend wandering in the desert. Think you could help us out? Anytime you can spare a hand would be fine. And then Yuna says, help you? Like, questioning it. She's like, you will? That's great. Good luck then. Show that fiend who's boss. She's like, nah, not my problem anymore.
Shinra says, hero, summoner, doormat.
I fucking hate Shinra so much. Like, you fucking respect Yuna, goddammit. She saved your fucking life, you little asshole.
And we know what you do with your future self, where you start the
know what you do with your
Shinra
future
Electric
self.
Power Corporation, you bastard.
And your present self. You put fucking cameras in everyone's living room, you little shit.
So we can check in on Clasco with the next one.
Who's this baby talking to some chocobo?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Who's a good boy? Who is you are?
Fuck, I think I missed this one too. God damn it. Yep. Not getting 100%, boys.
Yuna interrupts him while he's doing that, and he turns around and he's like, oh my gosh, it's Yuna. And she says, we won't be able to visit you for a while. Are the chocobos doing okay? Take care of them. And Classico's like, oh, of course, I hope to see you sometime soon. And that's all that. Just small talk.
Yeah, more small talk with a little bit more kind of implications, I guess, on Mount Gagazet, where we see Kimahri. And she says, hey, Kimahri, I'm going to be in a concert. Bring the rest of the Ronzo and come watch. And Kimahri says, Kimahri cannot. Elder Kimahri have duty. Kimahri cannot leave the mountain. Yuna says, that's too bad. I really wanted you to come listen. And
it's because he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Kimahri, listen. Song join hearts. Yuna, sing from heart. Kimahri hear Yuna's song. Kimahri believe this.
You're right. You're right. I'll do my best, Kimahri.
Which is really sweet, but when I heard that, I also thought the like the way the scene played out in my head is like Yuna's like, "Yo, get to the gig," and then Kimahri's like, "Yo, yeah, hell yeah, what time's your set? What time are you guys playing?" With full intention of being like, "I am not coming to that show." Yeah, I'll swing through. Yeah, and then like doesn't show up and yo, sick set.
And then.
Oh, by the way, another like if we didn't stop Garrick, the scene plays out much more of a bummer. He's like basically
I can't.
saying,
I have a war to do. I guess.
He's like Kimahri cannot. Angry Ronso youth leave mountain, seek revenge on Guado. Kimahri chase after Ronso, cannot stop them. Kimahri ashamed. Kimahri not worthy to face Yuna.
Aw,
it's a real bummer.
Bummer.
Then there's my least favorite section of all of this.
More hot springs, baby.
More hot springs, baby. And when we say more, there is probably like 20 plus scenes here.
Yeah.
This is I have like a whole page of just like notes on just the hot springs.
Yeah, so we need like 8 of these, but there are significantly more than 8 of them, and they kind of seem like they're kind of random as well. The order on the guide, I think, was mostly correct, but I was freaking out because I was like, I'm not getting the ones that are on the list. So
I do like so like the first we see is like I think a generic Ronso. He has kind of yellow hair, just kind of
I was wondering if that was Biron or
I looked it up and it's not either of them. It's not Biron or Yankee.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell.
But he says maybe grudge melt away here, which is kind of nice. Would have been nice before they stormed the Guado.
Yeah, if any place was gonna melt away a grudge, it would definitely be an onsen. And then he kind of just starts walking around in circles like he's trying to make a whirlpool. He's not trying to do that, but that's just what I thought.
I did not take notes on all of them, so I will let you go through them.
Yeah, that's fine. The next one that I got was looked like an empty spring, so I kind of just started moving the camera around, and then I saw something that looked like an item, like a potion in Final Fantasy VII, kind of like a little lime green potion. So I zoomed in a little bit, and it started moving, and it was a cactuar, and it just starts running all around and runs off.
Yeah, and Yuna goes,
says,
"Here of all places." Yeah,
and I was like, "Fuck, that's another side quest that we're probably gonna have to do soon."
Yeah,
right. I know there's one after that where we see Tobly kind of chilling, and he walks out. And I think there's some girls in the back that kind of giggle.
Yeah, and he says, hubba hubba.
He hubba hubbas.
And then he fucking Scooby-Doo runs. His feet are moving, but his body's like not. And then he gains enough speed and immediately wipes out and eats shit when he starts running. And he says, owie, owie. And the girls start laughing at him and take off. I think the voice of the girls also kind of sound like it might have just been Tara Strong. So I was just like, is that Riku? It's not Riku in there, but the same thing.
There's a lot of voices and you're like, oh, that's just another like John DiMaggio.
John DiMaggio?
Yeah, no, like
there's a bunch of John DiMaggio in there as well. But yeah, the kids who were playing hide and seek on Besaid that Alex mentioned, that was also Tara Strong, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, is that Riku laughing? Like, I liked the Hypello one.
Yeah, that was like first like, what the hell is this? It kind of reminded me like Pokemon Snap because there's just like a dozen of just the tops of like a Hypello's head just peeking out.
Uh-huh.
And then they all just pop out and kind of just start leaving. I think
they
there's
say,
also
show toasty.
Yeah.
Show toasty. Yeah. It's interesting that sometimes the water is opaque and sometimes it's clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next one is just 2 ginormous shoe puffs, which I'm not sure how they got up this mountain.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. That was really cute. I also accidentally went back to the other side of Gagazet and just saw Kimahri just kind of fucking chilling there. And like the female Ronzo that I guess his wife, girlfriend, like partner, is just there, and she kind of starts like rubbing his back a little bit and like puts her head on his, so they're just kind of like chilling, vibing there. And in my notes I decided that her name is Cortana and is also Kimahri's wife.
There's one that's just a lone guy. I think it's the guy with the really low cut pants just swimming around.
Yeah, that's right.
And Yuna seems kind of disappointed because she's just like, "This is it." All
yeah,
right.
which to me, I was like, maybe there's more. But and again, it's like this is very voyeuristic and very weird because we don't know that these people know what a comm sphere is, nor that you are watching them. So it's like very, very strange. Shinra is not beating the allegations.
Did you all talk about the one with Brother and the Hypello?
Oh, I love it. That one came up next. Yeah, we see Brother and Barkeep just fucking chilling. They're not in the hot spring, but he's just kind of sitting up on a rock, and Barkeep is behind him, rubbing his back a little bit. And Yuna, and Brother says, "Buddy." Was I saying Buddy or Brother?
It's Buddy who's down there.
It is Buddy. If I was saying Brother, it's because the dialogue says that Brother is saying Buddy, and I was...
Oh, yeah, so Buddy's just getting like a massage from a Hypello, right?
He's just getting a massage from Barkeep.
Yeah. And he just says, that felt good. And I was like, I love that, and now I also ship them. They are a couple.
Yeah, I know.
In my brain,
Me too.
But what really does it is that it takes us out of the comm sphere interface, and we see Buddy come back on the ship and just lays back like he just got fucking laid. I'm like, all right, kids, where to next?
Yeah, he's so chill. Yeah, I know.
He's loving it, dude.
So yeah, I think like
he's like smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, I feel like, and like the party is like awkwardly looking at him. Like there's a bunch of silence from them as he's just like chilling. So like I feel like we're in, I don't know if it's intended, quote unquote. However, yes, I do ship them now. Like they are an item, and like there is in-game text to like support this now.
No one can tell us that it's not correct because they don't have evidence to the contrary, and we have evidence to suggest it.
Exactly. Right.
Another thing that I really like, another funny wrinkle of this funny scene is that if we talked to Buddy at any point in this to be like, hey, where are we going? He's like, hey, we're going to wherever we're going, like Thunder Plains or Moonflow or wherever the fuck. And he says, there's no time for side trips. And then he's just like, but there is time for me and fucking
everyone has time spheres. Apparently.
Yeah. We're just going to the fucking hot springs, dude.
We see Owaka, who's just practicing his greeting.
I do like, welcome to Owaka's. Welcome to Owaka's. Welcome to Owaka's.
When he sings
welcome to Owaka's. Sometimes
shocked.
He sounds a little bit more and more like Matt Berry. Welcome to Owaka's.
I love also it kind of only jumped out to me with Owaka, even though like everyone in these scenes has done this, but like doing a full outfit dip, just like wearing his normal ass clothes, fully taking a dip that way.
Speaking of which, again, to go back with Buddy, right? Buddy, the only character who is not wearing the same outfit, totally shirtless. And he's also the only person not swimming. Like he doesn't actually get in the water, but he does get a shirtless scene. So like, love that. Love that for
Give the girls what they want.
There is a scene with Wince.
I do want to bring up again.
I know Wince. That's the fucking singer for Fallout Boy.
I do, before we move on from Owaka, I do want to once again bring up how much of a piece of shit Shinra is, because again, Owaka doesn't know that the sphere is there. He's just feeling himself. He's practicing things up, and he just says to himself, I think I'm onto something about his pitch. And Shinra goes, I think you're not. It's like, fuck you, Shinra, you fucking idiot.
Shinra.
Asshole.
Welcome to Owaka's. I think I'm onto something.
I think you're not.
But yeah, Wants is there. There's more like a group of girls like swimming, and he's like just being really shy and awkward and looking over his shoulder.
Have we seen Wants in this game?
I don't think so.
I do not remember Wants at all. And his name isn't here. I was just like, who the fuck is this guy? It's just two random Spirin ladies of the same character model, like just mirrored, it looks like.
Yeah.
Because of like the way their ponytail is.
I think they're the same character model as that girl who grew up and we're supposed to remember her, like Carrie or something like that.
Callie.
I think it's her model.
Okay.
Because she's kind of like has,
Yeah.
But I love that he's speaking over his shoulder, looking sheepless. They giggle, and then he runs off screen, and we hear a crash, and then like a Charlie Brown scream.
Yeah.
Another one, which is I think all of the Guardian brothers are all together for the first time in a while. The Maroda, Asaru, and the Kinderguardians are all there, and they're kind of just like doing some chat. They're just kind of chatting, right?
They're kind of like aggro with each other. Like Maroda and Isaru are kind of like, "Hey, it's good to see you again. Oh, by the way, I hate you."
they're in opposite factions, right?
They are, yeah.
Because Isaru just did not want to, or like Maroda did not want to talk about Isaru, right?
Yeah, Isaru is like, he kind of is, I would say, apolitical about the situation, where he like doesn't seem to care or whatever. And Maroda's like, how can you not care? Yeah. So they are not getting along.
The fact that I don't change is one of my better assets. Can't you accept that?
What's an asset? Do I have an asset too? Asset?
Only other people can tell you what your assets are.
There's just a lot more bickering, but eventually, like, Asaru's like, Maroda, can I have a word with you? And they go off screen, and then he gets, like, electrocuted, I think.
Yeah.
Like, Thundaga or something.
They talk about, like, what an asset is, and then Maroda says, only other people can tell you what your assets are, which I'm like, I don't think that's how assets work, but okay.
Assets.
I think only the bank can tell you what your assets are.
Yeah, they're not something you can judge on your own. It's like, okay.
We do get Elma hanging out
and
with
Lucille.
her armor off, which is nice, and Lucille.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like talking about
Clasko.
They're talking about what Clasko's up to, right?
Yeah, and Elma's like, I don't know, why would I know what he's up to? And Lucille says, I hope he's all right. And Elma says, I'm sure he's off somewhere gushing about how much he loves his good little chocobo.
Damn, she's so right about that, though.
And then she's like, well, maybe he's closer than we think. And then she gets into the
foreshadowing for a later scene.
Yeah, she gets into the hot spring as well. And then that's the end of that one. And then I saw in my notes here as I was going through, I did see on the list that Machen is also a part of this scene. And I just like wrote like, oh God, maybe that's why Curtis said this takes 4 hours. Like, I love Machen, but this is already so much. And finding him this deep into it has me fucking really, really nervous.
Luckily, this one not too bad.
He's hanging out with a monkey.
Yeah,
one of the lovely Xanarkin monkeys. And then like Machen starts going into like another like a lore dump.
Sacred demand, Gagazet. The permanence of this place is palpable. Care to hear about it?
And then the monkey just runs off.
Yeah, and he just says pity, and then he like hangs his head and slumps down and walks away like the sad Charlie Brown music in Arrested Development.
Yeah. Then we get Clasko.
Yes.
Clasko's just chilling there.
This is only if we caught that chocobo in the previous scene, apparently.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Or maybe in general, I think.
Okay. Have to have caught a chocobo to see this.
He needs a chocobo in the stable, I think, to have this happen.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, so he's got his he's dipping his toes in. The chocobo's fully in the hot spring, and he says, "This is the life, relaxing with a chocobo. I just want to sit here doing nothing." Which big respect. I feel that as well. Every time I try and do something, it ends up going wrong. Also, big respect to Clasko on that one. Maybe I can get through life without doing anything at all. Which I'm like, fuck yes, dude. That's what I'm dreaming of. And then as that all happens, the chocobo just takes off, and he says, "Oh, wait for me," and runs after him.
And then I think the final one. Oh, right. No, we have like 2 more. Yeah, we have one. We have one where it's Sid, Nautilus, and Rin, like just all the like Albed elders kind of hanging out.
The Albed character, yeah.
And Sid's just like bickering about. Like,
this one might be my favorite.
This is the best scene of all the hot spring scenes. Yeah,
Sid's just bickering about the youth, right?
Yeah, he's just like, oh, fucking kids these days. Yeah,
I don't like Facebook. I don't like the internet.
I don't want to do Instagram reels. I want to post a photo like I used to.
I'm not allowed at the library anymore.
Because of woke.
Yeah, because of woke. Yeah, I mean that's basically what he's doing, right? Like,
I tell you, sometimes I just don't know what gets into them kids these days. You know, letting themselves get all bent out of shape up over the tiniest little thing.
Yeah, and Nautilus is like, not everyone who gets bent out of shape is a kid, if you know what I mean. Being like, motherfucker, you're the most bent out of shape person I've ever,
yeah, right.
I've ever met.
He's literally just being
like,
mean. He's literally just like going sleepy on the couch, aka just moping in the Thunder Plains.
Right.
But he says, just whose side are you on anyway? You're not so young yourself, Missy. About time to start acting your age. And then she's just like, Sid, and he kind of like takes off. Is this implied that he's like trying to creep on her? I couldn't.
Maybe he just slowly like dips into the water, so you just see the top of his bald head peeking.
Oh, I thought he was ashamed. He was just like couldn't be.
I thought he was ashamed because he's just like, oh, you're kind of getting older too, Missy, and then like moving. And I might have just put more like this man is creepy into it.
He does kind of do
intended.
a circle back around and kind of like does like a shark creep up on her later. I think because we see his dome head just kind of creeping towards her.
It sounds like he was trying to flirt. And it did not go well, so then he just like dips in, and he can hold his breath for a really long time because he's just circling around with his bald head. But Nadala kind of just starts talking again. She says, I bet we could start quite a business here at the Springs. And then he emerges very comically and says, we'll make a fortune. We could finally rebuild home. And Rin says, why build a home the Albed no longer need? Sid says, what in tarnation? So just what have you been saving up all that gil for? And Rin says, like, he's decided that he wants his own house, like he wants his own home. That's what I'm working for now. And Nautilus says, listen, Sid, it might be cliche, but times really are changing. Even if you rebuilt home, no one would come. People are too busy looking for a new place to belong. And then he just sadly like bald heads swims around.
I actually think it's a very good scene. It's a very it's really well thought out dialogue.
It's more like that. This kind of theme we're seeing of people looking forward, not backward.
Right.
Yeah.
Because everyone's moving on.
Yeah, it's very well encapsulated there. It was just like a couple characters.
Yeah, it's nice. It's also, I like to hear the Albed motivation. Like, I think Sid, we were giving him a lot of shit because of him setting up the thing in the Zanarkand ruins, trying to make money and stuff. And it's like, well, if he was trying to make money for... just like rebuilding home, that's kind of admirable. Like it's misguided but admirable. So
yeah, it's interesting.
He's coming to terms with his own mortality. He's getting old and he doesn't want to be old. He used to be with it. Now what's it?
They've changed what it is. It'll happen to you.
Yeah, but then I think we get our last of the scenes in the hot tub, and it's Donna. So you know it's gonna be spicy. Woo!
But it's just her being like, it's not the same alone.
Yeah, she's really pining for Barthelo. How could you blame her? And
she's a very dependent. I think that is it for now because we can't do much until we progress to the next major plot thing.
We need to go to the Moonflow and get Tobley.
Yeah, so if you've been following along with the 100% speedrun, that has been a quick 26 minutes. And we're ready to get to the next split.
So
I think that is where we'll call it this week.
I think so.
Yes.
We're starting a new thing where we're going to do some shorter episodes to help catch up.
Yeah.
And basically, it's still an hour and a half, but
as you may have noticed,
change much from the show side of it. Aside from this week, which we are going to be recording the next week's episode tomorrow, but normally we're going to do the same recording that we always do. It's basically just like, as you've been able to tell, the consistency hasn't really been there as we're all in our mid 30s and it's really hard to schedule shit. So
very true.
We figured we'll just it is going to be exactly the same on your side, except you'll get an episode every week. And if you want it to be kind of more the way it was, you can just wait until the following week when both episodes are out,
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
So, we'll for next week, we're going to put together a show and then watch more Comspheres.
That's right.
We got to get to the gig.
Get to the show.
And then, spy on people more.
Alex, would you like to view a Comsphere for the 8th time?
Just in case something changed.
This time something will happen.
That's right.
God, imagine trying to figure out like where all this stuff was.
I know.
Ugh.
But anyway, thank you all for listening. Thank you to Enrico Matsuda and Takahiko Iguchi for the game music. Again, I did the theme music. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to everyone who's been leaving reviews on iTunes. It was really delightful seeing everyone.
Always good. Always brings me up.
Tooting our horn for us. You can find us at EveryFNFF on Instagram, Twitter, /X, /Blue Sky, which I'm trying to post more on. And our YouTube, which you may be listening to us on. And you can hop into our Discord to bother us some more and maybe correct us like, it's ones I did last week, or last episode about quotes and things we missed in the 10 season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always very welcome. We love that.
Why be a podcaster if what I'm potting for can never be cast?
All right, see y'all next week.
See y'all next week.
See ya.
Next week.